Asha knew crossing boundaries with a man like Kim Jae was dangerous the moment his dark eyes locked onto hers. She had treated countless patients in her 7 years as a physical therapist, but none had ever made her pulse race like this. The Korean man standing before her was all sharp edges and controlled violence, his tattooed arms crossed over his chest as he watched her with predatory stillness. Everything about him screamed danger, from the ink decorating his skin to the way his security team hovered just outside the door. But it was his brokenness that called to her, the haunted emptiness in his gaze that made her want to reach out despite every professional instinct screaming at her to walk away. "I don't need your help," he said, his voice cold as winter rain. "My mother wasted her money bringing you here." Asha adjusted her therapy bag and met his stare without flinching. "Then I guess you're comfortable living half a life. That makes my job easier. I'll just leave." Something flickered behind his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or curiosity. No one spoke to Kim Jae that way. Not in Seoul. Not in his world where fear was currency and respect was demanded, not earned. But this woman with her warm brown skin and unflinching confidence looked at him like he was just another patient, not the heir to one of Seoul's most powerful crime families. One session, he finally said, uncrossing his arms. "Then you leave and never come back." Asha smiled, knowing she'd already won this round. "One session. But when I prove you're not as broken as you think, you owe me an apology." The question now was, could she heal him without losing herself in the process? There was only one way to find out. Don't touch that dial. Welcome to my channel, besties. Before we continue, please hit that subscribe button to support my channel. Like and comment where you're watching from. I would love to meet you all in the comment section. The elevator doors opened to reveal a floor that looked nothing like the hospitals Asha knew back in California. Pristine white walls, no patients wandering the halls, just tension hanging in the air like smoke. This wasn't a regular medical facility. This was a fortress disguised as a clinic, the kind of place where powerful men came to hide their weaknesses from the world. A tall man in a black suit stepped forward, his expression blank, but his eyes tracking her every movement. "Miss Asha. I'm Tae, head of security for Mr. Kim. He's waiting inside, but I should warn you, he doesn't want to be here." His mother already mentioned that part. Asha shifted her therapy bag on her shoulder. "I've handled difficult patients before." Tae's mouth twitched almost into a smile. "With respect, you haven't handled anyone like him." The door at the end of the hall opened before Asha could respond. A younger man stepped out, handsome with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You must be the miracle worker my mother hired. I'm Minho, the reasonable brother." He extended his hand with practiced charm. "Fair warning, Jay's in a mood today. But then again, when isn't he?" Asha shook his hand firmly. "I appreciate the heads up, but moods don't scare me." "They should," Minho said, but he stepped aside to let her pass. The room beyond was cast in shadows, heavy curtains blocking out the afternoon sun. A man stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back, every line of his body rigid with tension. He didn't turn around when she entered. "Mr. Kim." Asha kept her voice professional but warm. "I'm Asha Thompson. Your mother hired me to help you. I know why you're here." His voice was deep and controlled, cold as winter ice. "And I'm telling you to leave. I flew 8,000 miles to help you. The least you can do is look at me when you're dismissing me." The silence stretched long enough that Asha wondered if she'd pushed too hard. Then slowly, deliberately, he turned. Asha's breath caught despite her professional composure. He was tall, easily 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his black shirt perfectly. His face was all sharp angles and devastating beauty, the kind that would make people stare anywhere he went. Dark hair fell slightly into eyes that were currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse skip. Intricate tattoos curved up his neck, disappearing beneath his collar, marking him as someone who belonged to a different world than hers. But it wasn't his looks that made her pause. It was the emptiness in those eyes, the carefully constructed wall that screamed of someone who'd given up on something fundamental. "You've looked. Now leave." He turned back to the window. No. Asha set down her bag with a decisive thump. I don't care if you're rich, powerful, or used to people doing whatever you say. I'm here because this is my job and I was paid to deliver results. Your nerve damage doesn't have to be permanent, but if you're comfortable living like this, then fine. I'll leave. The shock wave of her tone rippled through the room. Kim Jae turned slowly, and this time she saw something flicker behind the icy facade. Anger, maybe? Or curiosity. You don't know anything about my body, he said, his voice shaking just slightly. Asha pulled out her tablet, flipping through the medical files his mother had provided. I know you've had 3 surgeries. 12 different specialists. She lifted her eyes to meet his. I know you're standing in the dark because you've convinced yourself you're broken beyond repair. She took a step closer, just enough to invade his space. Well, Mr. Kim, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Kim Jae studied her for what felt like forever. Asha forced herself to hold his gaze, to not look away from the intensity burning there. Fine, he said finally, moving past her toward a door on the far side of the room. 1 session. Then you leave. The therapy room was better lit, equipped with professional equipment that must have cost a fortune. Asha began setting up while Jay stood against the wall, watching her with that same unnerving focus. I need you on the table, she said, pulling out her massage oils and nerve stimulation tools. I don't take orders. In this room, you do. Unless you'd rather stay broken. The word hung between them like a challenge. His jaw tightened, but he moved to the table, unbuttoning his shirt with deliberate slowness. Intricate tattoos covered his torso, the mark of the Kim family crest prominent over his heart. Scars from his accident crisscrossed his abdomen, evidence of the surgeries that had saved his life, but stolen something precious in return. Asha kept her professional composure firmly in place despite the way her hands wanted to shake. There was something about him that set her nerves on edge. Not fear exactly, but awareness. The kind that made her hyper-conscious of every breath, every movement. I'm going to start with your lower back. The nerves that control sensation originate from your lumbar spine. She warmed the oil between her palms. This might be uncomfortable at first, but I need you to try to relax. I don't relax. Then today's full of firsts. Asha placed her hands on his lower back. His entire body went rigid under her touch. The muscles beneath her fingers were dense, locked tight with years of tension. She worked slowly, carefully, finding knots and pressure points with practiced precision. You're barely breathing, she murmured. Tension makes nerve response worse. It's hard to relax when a stranger has their hands on you. I'm not a stranger. I'm your therapist. Asha pressed deeper into a particularly tight spot along his spine. When's the last time anyone touched you? And I don't mean doctors. I mean really touched you. The silence was answer enough. They continued in quiet, broken only by the soft sounds of her movements and his carefully controlled breathing. Asha lost herself in the familiar rhythm of finding tension and releasing it, but she couldn't ignore the warmth spreading through her palms, the way his body slowly, grudgingly began to respond to her touch. After nearly an hour, something had shifted. The rigid tension in his muscles had eased, his breathing had deepened. Asha was working on his hip flexors when Jay suddenly sat up, his expression caught between wonder and confusion. What is it? Her brows furrowed. Did I hurt you? Jay gave no response for several heartbeats. Then he flexed his hands like he was testing them. I felt something just now. That hasn't happened in 3 years. Asha felt triumph surge through her chest, but she kept her voice calm. It's a start. I'm sorry for being difficult earlier. The words came out rough, like they hurt. You were right. Asha smiled, turning back to clean her hands. Same time tomorrow? What if nothing else changes? He asked, and she heard the fear beneath the question. She looked at him directly. What if everything does? That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes told her she'd hit the mark. Asha left the hospital feeling oddly shaken. She'd treated powerful men before, celebrities and executives, but Kim Jae was different. Dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with his reputation and everything to do with the way he looked at her, like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve, but desperately wanted to. Her apartment in Itaewon was small but comfortable, a sublet from another therapist who'd returned to the States. Asha collapsed onto her couch and called her best friend back in California. "So how did it go?" Jessica's voice came through bright and curious. "How was the mysterious client?" "Complicated." Asha closed her eyes. "He's got severe nerve damage from an accident 3 years ago. Complete loss of sensation in certain areas. But Jess, there was this moment today when he felt something change. Like his body remembering what it used to do." "And what's he like? Is he nice? Mean? Gorgeous?" Asha's pause was too long. "Oh my God, he's gorgeous." Jessica crowed. "I can hear it in your voice." "Stop. He's my client. His looks don't matter. But he is gorgeous." Devastatingly. Asha groaned. And cold and closed off and clearly dealing with some serious stuff beyond the physical. "But Jess, I'm here to do a job, not develop some ridiculous crush." "Too late. You already have one." They talked for another 20 minutes before Asha finally hung up. She knew Jessica wasn't wrong, but acknowledging it felt dangerous. She'd worked with attractive clients before without any issues. This would be no different. Except it already was. That night, Asha couldn't stop thinking about the way Jay's body had felt under her hands. The heat of his skin, the tension slowly melting away. She fell asleep with his face in her mind, those dark eyes watching her like she was something he wanted but couldn't have. The next morning, Asha arrived at the hospital promptly at 8. Tay met her in the lobby, his expression slightly less forbidding than yesterday. "He's already in the therapy room," Tay said as they rode the elevator up. "That's new. Usually we have to hunt him down." "Progress," Asha murmured. Jay was indeed waiting, dressed in black athletic wear that showcased his physique in ways her professional brain tried very hard to ignore. He stood by the window, but this time he turned when she entered. "You came back." "I said I would." Asha set down her bag. "How did you feel after yesterday?" "Different." "Not necessarily better, but different." He moved toward the table without being asked. "Different is good. It means your body is responding." She began setting up. "Today, we're going to work on your hip flexors and lower abdominals. The nerve pathways there connect to everything else." Something flickered in his eyes. "That's more invasive." "I'm a professional, Mr. Kim. I've done this hundreds of times." Asha kept her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. "But if you're uncomfortable, we can modify the approach." "I'm not uncomfortable." He lay down, but she saw his hands fist at his sides. "Do what you need to do." Asha warmed fresh oil, then placed her hands just above his hip bone. His stomach muscles contracted immediately under her touch. "Breathe," she instructed softly. "I know this feels vulnerable, but tension defeats the purpose." "Everything about this feels vulnerable." "That's because it is." Her hands moved in slow circles, working the tight muscles. "Healing requires vulnerability. That's the scary part nobody talks about." They fell into silence, but it was different from yesterday. Charged somehow. Asha was acutely aware of every point of contact between her hands and his body, every breath he took, every tiny shift in his position. "Why did you become a physical therapist?" His voice startled her. "My father had a stroke when I was younger." The therapist who worked with him was amazing. Patient and kind. She helped him walk again when everyone else said it was impossible. Asha's hands continued their work. "I wanted to be that person for someone else. Noble. Practical. I like fixing things." "Am I anything to fix?" She met his eyes. "You're a person who deserves to feel whole." "That's different." Something passed between them in that look, something that made Asha's hands falter for just a second before she forced herself back to professionalism. By the end of the session, Jay was sitting up, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow," she confirmed. It became their routine. Every morning at 8, Asha arrived and worked with Jay for an hour. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they worked in comfortable silence. But every day she felt him opening up a little more, the walls coming down brick by careful brick. On the fourth day, he told her about the accident. A car crash on a rainy night 3 years ago. His driver had died instantly. Jay had survived, but with injuries that went beyond broken bones. The doctors said I was lucky, he said quietly, staring at the ceiling while she worked on his shoulders. Lucky to be alive. Lucky to walk again. But it didn't feel lucky when I realized what I'd lost. He paused. Everything that made me feel like a man. The ability to feel pleasure, to connect with someone physically, to have a future that included normal things. Asha's hands stilled for a moment. Your body is healing, Jay. I can feel it responding. The nerve damage isn't permanent. You don't know that. I do. I've seen cases like yours before. With the right treatment, with time and patience, function can be restored. She resumed her work. But you have to believe it's possible. Your mind is as much a part of healing as your body. Easy to say when it's not your body. You're right. Asha pressed harder, making him wince. But giving up is easier. And you've been doing that for 3 years. Time to stop. On the 6th day, Minho showed up halfway through the session, knocking briefly before entering. His eyes went wide when he saw Asha's hands on his brother's lower back, the intimate nature of the work. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Mother wants to know if you're joining us for dinner tonight. He looked between them with obvious curiosity. Both of you. Jay's eyes found Asha's. That's not necessary. I'd love to, Asha said before she could second-guess herself. If it's not an imposition. It's not, Minho said quickly. 7 at the family estate. I'll send a car for you. After he left, Jay sat up slowly. You don't have to go. My mother can be intense. I want to go. I'd like to meet the woman who hired me. Asha began cleaning up her equipment. Unless you don't want me there. It's not that. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. It's just that once you step into that world, things get complicated. My family isn't like normal families. We have expectations, traditions. People who watch everything we do. I grew up in a military family. I understand expectations and being watched. She held her ground even as her heart raced. Are you scared they might think something's happening between us? No. The word came out fierce. I just don't want you to feel pressured into something you're not ready for. Let me decide what I'm ready for. She met his eyes. I'll see you at 7. The Kim family estate was in Gangnam, behind high walls and heavy security. Asha wore a simple black dress and had left her hair natural, curls framing her face. The car dropped her at the main entrance where Minho was waiting. You look great, he said with an approving smile. Fair warning, Mother invited some extended family. She wants to show you off. Show me off. Her eyes widened. She's proud of the progress Jay's making. And curious about the woman who managed to get him to actually try again. Minho led her through beautiful gardens toward the main house. But be careful. My family can be very inquisitive, especially about people in our world. What world is that exactly? Minho paused at the entrance, his expression turning serious. You really don't know, do you? About what my family does. Your mother said you're in business. Import and export. Among other things. He looked like he wanted to say more, but the door opened. A woman in her 50s stood there, elegant in traditional hanbok, her hair perfectly styled. She had Jay's eyes, sharp and assessing. Miss Thompson, I'm Lady Kim. Please come in. Her English was flawless. My son speaks highly of your work. Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Kim. Call me Hygiene. We're not formal here. She led Asha into a beautiful sitting room where several people were gathered. Everyone, this is Asha Thompson, Jay's therapist. Jay stood near the window, dressed in a black suit that made him look impossibly handsome. His eyes found hers immediately, and something in his expression softened. Asha was introduced to aunts, uncles, cousins. All polite, but clearly curious. They asked about her background, her training, her family. She answered honestly, aware of being evaluated with every word. Dinner was served in a formal dining room. Asha found herself seated between Jae and Hyejin, with Minho across from them. The meal was traditional Korean, course after course of beautifully prepared dishes. So, Miss Thompson, an older man Asha had been introduced to as Uncle Sung, said, "What do you think of our Jae? I think he's a dedicated patient who's making excellent progress." Asha kept her voice professional. "Just a patient?" Uncle Sung's smile was knowing. "My nephew is a very eligible bachelor. Many families have expressed interest in marriage alliances." "Uncle," Jay's voice held warning. "I'm simply saying the girl should know what she's getting into if she has designs on you." "I have no designs," Asha said firmly, though her throat tightened. "I'm his therapist. That's all." Hyejin smoothly changed the subject, asking Asha about California and her family. The rest of dinner passed pleasantly, though Asha remained aware of the undercurrents, the way certain relatives watched her with calculating eyes. After dinner, Jay pulled her aside. "Let me show you the gardens. They're beautiful at night." They walked in silence for a while, the sounds of the party fading behind them. Finally, in a secluded corner surrounded by flowering trees, Jay stopped. "I'm sorry about my uncle. He's old-fashioned and thinks everything should be a business transaction." "It's fine. I've dealt with worse." Asha turned to face him. "But what did he mean about marriage alliances? People don't really arrange marriages anymore, do they?" "In my world, they do." Jay's hand brushed hers as they walked. "Marriages are about power, territory, connections. My mother has been fielding proposals since I was 20. And have you accepted any?" "No. I never wanted to marry someone I don't love." He stopped, facing her now. His hand lifted to her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "Until recently, I didn't think I'd ever want to marry at all." Asha's breath caught. "What changed?" You changed everything." He leaned closer. "Tell me I'm not alone in feeling this. Tell me you feel it too." Asha knew this was the moment she should step back, maintain professional boundaries. But looking into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, she couldn't lie. "I feel it," she whispered. "I've been feeling it since that first day." Her hand covered his where it rested against her cheek. "But Jay, we can't act on it. I'm your therapist. There are rules. Then I'll find another therapist. You're making progress with me. Changing now could set you back months." "I don't care." He moved closer until they were breathing the same air. "I'd rather take longer to heal than lose the chance to be with you. You don't know what you're saying." This feeling, it might just be gratitude. Patients often develop feelings for their therapists during treatment. It's normal and it passes. This won't pass. His other hand found her waist. "I've had dozens of therapists over 3 years. I never felt anything for any of them. But you, from the moment you walked in and refused to be intimidated, I felt something wake up inside me." "Jay," she started, but he was already leaning in. Their lips met in a collision that sent electricity through every nerve in Asha's body. She should have resisted, should have pushed him away. Instead, she found herself pressing closer, her hands gripping his jacket as the kiss deepened. 3 weeks of tension, of careful professionalism, of denying what they both felt poured into that kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Asha rested her forehead against his chest. "This is a terrible idea," she muttered. "The best ones usually are." His arms came around her. "What do we do now?" "I don't know." She pulled back to look at him. "I need to think. We both need to think about what this means, what we're willing to risk." "I already know what I'm willing to risk. Everything." "That's easy to say in the heat of the moment. But we're talking about my career, your treatment, both of our reputations." Asha stepped out of his arms, immediately missing the warmth. "Give me a few days. Let me figure out if there's a way to do this that doesn't compromise either of us. And if there isn't, then we decide what matters more." She touched his face gently. "I should go. Your family will notice if we're gone too long." He walked her back to the main house, where Minho was waiting with a knowing smile. The car ride home gave Asha time to think, but her mind kept returning to the feel of Jay's mouth on hers, the way he'd held her like she was precious. She was in so much trouble. That night, Asha researched therapist-patient relationships, professional boundaries, ethical guidelines. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. She needed to transfer his care to another therapist before pursuing any kind of personal relationship. But finding someone who could work with Jay, who he'd trust enough to let touch him, that wouldn't be easy. She was still wrestling with the problem the next morning when her phone rang. Marcus Webb's name flashed on the screen. Marcus was a colleague from grad school, someone she'd kept in touch with over the years. Asha, hey. I'm actually in Seoul for a conference. Wanna grab coffee? She almost said no, then realized maybe distance was exactly what she needed. Perspective from someone outside the situation. Sure. There's a cafe in Itaewon I've been meaning to try. They met that afternoon. Marcus looked the same as always, easy smile and casual confidence. They ordered Americanos and settled at a corner table. So how's the mysterious client? Marcus asked. Still mysterious? Very. Asha wrapped her hands around her cup. Actually, I could use some advice. She gave him the basics, leaving out names and identifying details. A patient she was developing feelings for, the ethical complications, the question of whether to continue treatment or transfer his care. Marcus listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. Here's my take. You're too close to the situation to be objective anymore. Feelings, whether reciprocated or not, compromise your ability to provide impartial care. So I should transfer him? Professionally, yes. Personally, I think you need to ask yourself what you really want. Marcus leaned forward. Is this guy worth potentially complicating your career? Because once you cross that line, even if you transfer his care first, people will talk. I know. But I also see how you light up when you talk about him, even anonymously. Marcus smiled. I've known you for 5 years, Asha. I've never seen you like this about anyone. They talked for another hour, and Asha felt some clarity emerging. She couldn't keep treating Jay while having feelings for him. That was non-negotiable. But she could transfer his care, maintain professional distance, and then see what developed. She was laughing at one of Marcus's jokes when movement caught her eye. Her heart stopped. Jay stood 10 feet away, dressed in a black suit, his hair styled back from his face. He looked every inch the powerful, dangerous man people whispered about. But his eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin heat. Jay, she stood automatically. I didn't expect to see you here. This is my hotel. His gaze cut to Marcus, cold and assessing. Having a nice time? Marcus Webb. We went to grad school together. She gestured between them, trying to ignore the sudden tension. Marcus, this is Kim Jae, one of my clients. Marcus extended his hand with friendly ignorance. Nice to meet you, man. Asha's told me about her work here. Sounds fascinating. Jay shook his hand, but Asha saw the deliberate pressure in his grip. Has she? I wasn't aware my treatment was dinner conversation. It's not, Asha said quickly. I never discuss client details. Marcus just knows I'm working with someone. Someone important apparently. Marcus grinned, oblivious to the danger crackling in the air. How fortunate. Jay's jaw was tight. Enjoy your evening. He turned and walked away before Asha could say anything else. She watched him cross the lobby, every woman's head turning as he passed, and felt something twist in her chest. That was jealousy she'd seen in his eyes. Raw and barely controlled. Asha tried to focus on her conversation with Marcus, but her mind was racing. When they finally parted ways an hour later, she was walking back to her apartment when someone stepped out of an alley. A young Korean man, probably early 20s, with hard eyes and aggressive posture. You're the lady treating Kim Jae. Asha's heart kicked. Excuse me. He's made himself weak letting a woman like you touch him. Some people think that's a problem. I don't know what you're talking about. She tried to walk past, but he blocked her path. You should go back to America before something bad happens. His smile was nasty. Seoul can be dangerous for foreigners who don't know their place. Fear spiked through her, but Asha kept her voice steady. Are you threatening me? Just offering advice. He stepped back, hands raised in mock innocence. Think about it. He disappeared into the crowd before Asha could respond. She stood there, hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. Someone had just threatened her. Because of Jay. Because of whatever world he was part of. She got home, locked the doors, and pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. Jay picked up on the first ring. Our session isn't until tomorrow. Or were you calling to tell your friend you got home safe? Jay, someone just threatened me. On the street. He said I should leave Seoul while I can. What is going on? She heard the sharp concern in his voice. What? Where are you? I'm at home now. Itaewon. Stay there. I'm sending Tae to get you. Don't go anywhere alone. Jay, what's going on? Why would someone threaten me? The silence on the other end was heavy. What did he look like? Asha described the man as best she could. She heard Jay speaking to someone else, rapid Korean she couldn't follow. Tae will be there in 3 minutes. Stay inside. Don't answer the door except for him. You're scaring me. I'm sorry this is happening. I'll explain everything when you get here. Just stay safe until then. Tae arrived in a black SUV, his expression grim. He ushered her into the back seat and they drove through Seoul in tense silence. They didn't go to the hospital. Instead, they pulled into an underground garage beneath a gleaming high-rise. Where are we? Mr. Kim's private residence. You'll be safe here. Tae led her to a private elevator. It opened directly into a penthouse that took Asha's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Seoul. The decor was minimalist and expensive, all clean lines and dark colors. Jay stood at those windows, hands in his pockets, tension visible in every line of his body. He turned when the elevator opened. Tell me exactly what happened. Every word he said. Asha recounted the encounter, watching his expression grow colder with each sentence. When she finished, he pulled out his phone and made a call in rapid Korean. He hung up and finally looked at her. Really looked at her. Are you hurt? No. Just shaken. Asha wrapped her arms around herself. Jay, what's happening? Why would someone threaten me over treating you? He moved to the bar, poured whiskey with hands that shook slightly. Because of what I am. What my family does. Which is what exactly? And don't give me vague answers about business interests. Jay downed the whiskey, poured another. My family controls significant operations in Seoul's underground economy. We're not traditional organized crime, but we're not entirely legitimate either. We broker deals between various factions, provide security and enforcement, move products that others can't. Products? Pharmaceuticals mostly. Expensive medical supplies that come in through private channels. He met her eyes. We also own half the nightclubs in Gangnam, several hotels, construction companies. The legitimate businesses fund the rest. Asha sank onto the couch. You're a crime boss. I prefer businessman with flexible ethics. His smile was bitter. But yes, essentially. And the threat is probably from a rival faction. Someone who thinks my involvement with you makes me vulnerable. So by treating you, by getting close to you, I've become a target. Yes. He sat beside her, not touching. In my world, caring about anything is seen as weakness. People look for leverage, for ways to manipulate or control. I should go back to America. Probably. He still wasn't looking at her. That would be the smart thing. The safe thing. But I don't want you to go. Finally, he turned to face her. I know that's selfish. I know I should let you leave, let you be safe. But the thought of you getting on a plane, of never seeing you again, it makes me want to destroy things. Jay, I'm in love with you, Asha. The words came out raw, honest. I've been falling since that first day. Every session, every conversation, every moment you touch me, I fall deeper. Her heart hammered. You don't know that. It could be transference, gratitude. It's not. I've spent 3 years being touched by dozens of therapists and doctors. I never felt anything for any of them. He took her hand. But you make me feel alive again. You make me want to be better than I am. I can't keep treating you if we have feelings for each other. I know. So I'm firing you as my therapist. Effective immediately. Your treatment isn't complete. Then I'll find someone else. Minho can coordinate it. His eyes searched hers. But I need to know if there's a chance. If you feel even a fraction of what I feel, tell me now. Asha thought about all the reasons she should say no. The danger, the complications, the fact that she barely knew this world he occupied. Then she thought about the way he looked at her, the careful gentleness of his touch, the vulnerability he showed only to her. I feel it too, she whispered. I've been trying not to, trying to maintain boundaries, but I feel it. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Then stay. Stay with me and let me keep you safe. Safe from what exactly? From whoever's threatening you. From rival factions who might see you as leverage, from anyone who thinks they can use you to get to me. He pulled back enough to look at her. I won't lie. Being with me means danger. But I swear I'll protect you with everything I have. This is insane. I barely know you outside of therapy sessions. Then let's change that. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow. However long it takes to figure out who's behind the threat. His hand cupped her face. Get to know me. The real me. Not just the patient. Asha knew she should refuse, should insist on going home, on putting distance between them until she could think clearly. But the thought of leaving, of facing potential danger alone, made her throat tight. Okay, I'll stay. But just until we figure out what's going on. Thank you. He kissed her forehead. There's a guest room through there. I'll have to bring some of your things from your apartment. Jay, about what you said. About loving me. I meant it. Every word. His hand cupped her face. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But Asha was starting to suspect she did love him. Was falling in love with him despite every logical reason not to. And that terrified her more than any threat. The guest room was beautiful and impersonal, clearly never used. Asha showered and changed into clothes Tay had retrieved from her apartment, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few hours. She'd been threatened, learned that Jay was essentially a crime boss, been told he loved her, agreed to stay in his penthouse indefinitely. Her life had gone from predictable to completely insane in the space of 3 weeks. There was a knock on her door. Jay stood there with a tray of food. I figured you hadn't eaten. My cook sent up some comfort food. He set the tray on her bedside table. Are you okay? Honestly, I don't know. Asha sat on the edge of the bed. This is a lot to process. I know. And I'm sorry you got dragged into my world like this. He sat beside her, careful to maintain some distance. If I'd known someone would threaten you, I never would have let things develop between us. You can't control how you feel. Maybe not, but I could have been more careful. His hands fisted on his thighs. The thought of someone hurting you because of me makes me feel insane. Hey. Asha touched his arm. I'm okay. Scared, but okay. He turned to look at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes made her breath catch. I need you to understand something. The people in my world, they don't make empty threats. If someone approached you today, it means they're watching, calculating. I won't let them get close enough to hurt you. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes. The coldness in his voice sent a chill down her spine. I've already put out word that you're under my protection. Anyone who touches you answers to me personally. Is that enough? It should be. My reputation carries weight in Seoul. He stood, pacing to the window. But there are always those who think they're brave enough or smart enough to challenge me. Asha watched him, this man who could switch between gentle and dangerous so seamlessly. Your family knew this could happen. That's why your uncle was testing me at dinner. They wanted to see if I could handle your world. For what it's worth, my mother likes you. She said you have fire. Is that good in your world? It's essential. He returned to sit beside her. Asha, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay. Are you staying because you want to or because you're afraid? She considered the question carefully. Both, if I'm being honest. I'm definitely afraid. But I also don't want to leave. Not yet. Not yet. He repeated softly. But eventually. I don't know. This is all so new, so overwhelming. She took his hand. Can we just take this one day at a time? Figure out what this is between us without the pressure of forever hanging over it. I can do that. He squeezed her hand. Though fair warning, I'm not good at casual. Once I decide I want something, I go after it completely. Noted. She smiled despite her nerves. Now feed me before this food gets cold. They ate together, the conversation gradually shifting to lighter topics. Jay told her about growing up in Seoul's elite circles, the expectations and pressures. Asha shared stories about California, her parents, her decidedly normal childhood. It sounds nice, Jay said. Normal. It was. Sometimes boring, but nice. Asha set down her empty bowl. Did you ever wish for normal? Especially after the accident. Before that, I was too busy building power to think about what I was sacrificing. He leaned back against the headboard. But 3 years of being broken gives you time to think. To realize that all the power in the world doesn't mean much if you're alone. You're not alone now. No. Now I have you. He turned his head to look at her. Even if it's just for a little while. Something in his voice made Asha's chest ache. He was trying to be okay with temporary, with whatever she could give, but she could see it cost him. Jay, I'm not planning to leave tomorrow or even next week. Can we please stop acting like I have one foot out the door already? Sorry. Old habit. Expecting people to leave before they can be taken away. He stood. I should let you sleep. If you need anything, my room's at the end of the hall. Wait. Asha caught his hand before he could leave. Stay. Just for a little while. I don't want to be alone right now. He hesitated, then kicked off his shoes and lay down beside her on top of the covers. Asha curled against his side, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This okay? She asked. More than okay. His arm came around her. This is perfect. They lay like that until Asha drifted off to sleep, feeling safer than she had any right to given the circumstances. She woke alone the next morning, sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. Asha found Jay in the kitchen cooking breakfast with surprising competence. He'd changed into casual clothes, jeans and a black t-shirt that showed off his physique. You cook. I have many hidden talents. He smiled, the real one that transformed his face. Coffee? Please. They ate breakfast together at the kitchen island, and it felt domestic in a way that should have been strange, but somehow wasn't. I should have a name by this afternoon, Jay said. Whoever sent that guy to threaten you is going to regret it. What will you do when you find out who it is? Make it very clear that you're off limits. He met her eyes. The details involve things you probably don't want to know about. Violence. Yes. No apology in his voice. I won't lie to you about who I am, Asha. I'm not a good man. I've done things, ordered things that would horrify most people. But not me. I don't know. That's what terrifies me. He set down his coffee. That one day you'll look at me and really see what I am and you'll be horrified. Asha thought about that. About the man who'd threatened her yesterday, the casual cruelty in his voice. About Jay's world where violence was currency and weakness got you killed. I think you're more than the worst things you've done, she said finally. We all are. Yes, you've hurt people. But you've also protected people, built something from nothing, survived things that would have broken others. His grip tightened on her hand. You make me want to be better. Then be better. Not for me. For yourself. They were interrupted by Jay's phone buzzing. He glanced at it and his expression hardened. I need to take this. Don't leave the penthouse. He disappeared into his office and Asha was left alone with her thoughts. She wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over Seoul. Somewhere out there was the person who'd threatened her, the people who saw her as Jay's weakness. She should be more afraid than she was. Should be on the next plane back to California. But something kept her rooted here. Some combination of attraction and curiosity, and the feeling that walking away now would be giving up on something important. Her phone rang. Jessica's face appeared on the screen. Girl, you haven't called in days. What's going on? Asha gave her the abbreviated version. The developing feelings, Jay's revelation about his world, the threat, moving into his penthouse. Jesus Christ, Asha. You're living in a drama. Are you safe? I think so. Jay's made it clear I'm under his protection. And you believe he can protect you? Yeah, I do. Asha surprised herself with how certain she sounded. You should see him, Jess. He's terrifying when he wants to be. But babe, you need to think long-term here. Can you really build a life with someone in that world? The danger, the violence. I don't know. I'm trying not to think that far ahead. That's not like you. You're a planner. I know. But this thing with Jay, it doesn't fit into neat plans. It's messy and complicated and probably a terrible idea. Asha leaned her forehead against the cool glass. But I can't walk away from it. Not yet. Then don't. Just be careful, okay? And keep me updated, so I know you're alive. They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Asha felt slightly better having talked it through, having someone back home know what was happening. Jay emerged from his office an hour later looking satisfied and slightly dangerous. I have a name. Park Jin-soo. Low-level enforcer for the Choi family. They operate in Itaewon, which is why he was able to approach you there. What does that mean? It means the Choi family is testing me. Seeing if I'll really protect you or if it's all talk. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to meet with their boss this afternoon. Make it clear that threatening you is a mistake. Can I come with you? Absolutely not. His voice was firm. You stay here where it's safe. I'll handle this. I'm tired of being handled. If this is about me, I should be there. No. These meetings can turn violent quickly. I won't risk you. He moved closer, his hands settling on her shoulders. Please, Asha. Let me do this my way. The please did it. She could see how much it cost him to ask rather than order. Fine. But you come back safe. Understand. I always do. He kissed her forehead. Tay will be here if you need anything. Don't answer the door for anyone else. After he left, the penthouse felt too empty. Asha tried to distract herself with television, a book, anything. But her mind kept returning to Jay in a room with dangerous people, negotiating her safety. She was pacing when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. If you care about Kim Jae, you'll leave Seoul. He's making enemies because of you. How many people have to suffer before you realize you're poison? Asha's hands shook as she forwarded the message to Jay. His response came immediately. Don't respond. Delete the number. I'm handling it. But the message rattled her. How many people would get hurt because of her connection to Jay? Was she being selfish by staying? She was still wrestling with these questions when Min-ho showed up at the penthouse, letting himself in with his own key. Tae told me what happened. Figured you could use company. He held up a bag of snacks. Korean stress relief. Despite everything, Asha smiled. Does your brother know you're here? He's the one who suggested it. Said you shouldn't be alone while he handles business. Min-ho settled on the couch. Plus, I wanted to check on you. Make sure you're not freaking out too badly. I'm freaking out a normal amount given the circumstances. Good. That means you're sane. He poured them drinks. Look, I know my brother's world is intense. Trust me, I grew up in it. But he's good at what he does. If he says he'll keep you safe, he will. Even if it means putting himself in danger? Especially then. Minho's expression turned serious. Jay hasn't cared about anyone like this since the accident. Actually, I'm not sure he's ever cared about anyone like this. So yeah, he'll do whatever it takes to protect you. That's what worries me. What if he takes unnecessary risks because of me? Then that's his choice to make. You can't control him, Asha. Nobody can. Min-ho handed her a shot. All you can do is decide if he's worth the complications, if this life is something you can handle long-term. They drank and Asha felt the burn down her throat. I don't know if I can handle it. I'm a physical therapist from California. I've never dealt with anything like this. Nobody's equipped for this life until they're in it. He poured another round. But you seem tougher than you look. You stood up to Jay when most people cower. That counts for something. Or it means I'm too stupid to be properly afraid. Fear and courage aren't opposites. Being scared but staying anyway, that's real bravery. They spent the next few hours talking, Min-ho sharing stories about growing up in Jay's shadow. Asha found herself relaxing, enjoying his easy company. You're good for him, Minho said as the sun began to set. I haven't seen him this alive in years. So whatever happens, thank you for that. Jay returned just after 7, and Asha saw immediately that something had shifted. He looked tired but satisfied, like he'd accomplished something important. It's handled, he said without preamble. The Choi family understands that you're off limits. They've agreed to leave you alone. Just like that. I was very persuasive. He pulled off his jacket and Asha saw bruised knuckles. They won't be a problem anymore. Minho stood. That's my cue to leave. Try not to do anything I wouldn't do. He winked at Asha on his way out. Once they were alone, Asha crossed to Jay and took his hands, examining the damage. You got in a fight? A small disagreement about respect and boundaries. He let her turn his hands over, inspecting his knuckles. Nothing I couldn't handle. You could have been seriously hurt. But I wasn't. I'm here, safe, and the threat is neutralized. He pulled her closer. That's all that matters. Asha looked up at him, this man who'd fought for her, who'd put himself in danger to keep her safe. Thank you. You don't need to thank me for protecting what's mine. The possessive declaration should have bothered her. Instead, it sent heat through her veins. Yours. If you'll have me. I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out, but I need you to know that I'm all in, Asha. Completely committed to this, to us. Her heart hammered. Even though I'm complicated and foreign and don't fit into your world, especially because of that, you make me want to build a different world, one where I can be more than what I was raised to be. His hands framed her face. So yes, mine, if you'll let me be yours. Asha knew she should think about this more, should take time to consider all the implications. But standing there looking into his eyes, feeling the way he touched her like she was precious, she couldn't find any more reasons to hold back. Okay, I'm yours. She rose on her toes. And you're mine. He kissed her then, deep and claiming. Asha melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt. This was different from their first kiss in the garden. That had been tentative testing. This was certainty, promise, possession. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jay rested his forehead against hers. Stay with me tonight. Not in the guest room. In my bed. Just sleeping if that's what you want, but I need you close. Need to know you're safe. Asha thought about all the reasons she should maintain some boundaries, some distance. Then she thought about how empty the guest room had felt last night before he'd joined her. Okay, but I'm stealing all the blankets. His laugh was surprised and genuine. Deal. They ordered dinner, something easy and delicious from Jay's favorite restaurant. They ate while watching a drama on television, arguing good-naturedly about the characters' choices. It was so normal, so domestic that Asha almost forgot about the danger and complications. Almost. Later in Jay's bedroom, Asha felt her nerves return. This was different from falling asleep together last night. This felt more deliberate, more intimate. I can sleep on the couch if you're uncomfortable, Jay offered, reading her expression. No. I want this. I'm just nervous. She climbed into bed, acutely aware of him moving around the room, getting ready. It's been a while since I shared a bed with anyone. Same. He slid in beside her, keeping careful distance. We don't have to do anything. I meant what I said. I just want you close. Asha shifted closer, resting her head on his chest. His arm came around her automatically, and she felt some of her tension ease. Can I ask you something? Anything. Are you really okay with taking this slow? I know you said you're all in, but physically I need time. Everything is happening so fast. His hand stroked her back in soothing circles. I'm okay with whatever pace you need. Yes, I want you, but I also want you comfortable and certain. There's no rush. Even though you're used to getting what you want immediately, especially because of that. You're not a business deal or a territory acquisition. You're a person I care about. He pressed a kiss to her hair. You're worth waiting for. Asha felt something in her chest expand. You're pretty amazing, you know that? I'm really not. But I'm trying to be. For you. They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in days, Asha felt truly safe. The next week fell into a rhythm. Asha continued staying at the penthouse, though she ventured out during the day with security. She visited her clinic, met with colleagues, tried to maintain some semblance of normal life. Jay arranged for another therapist to take over his treatment, a quiet professional woman who came to the penthouse 3 times a week. It was strange watching someone else work with him, but Asha knew it was necessary. They spent evenings together, cooking or ordering in, talking about everything and nothing. Jay told her about his business, both legitimate and otherwise. Asha shared more about her family, her dreams, her fears. One evening during dinner, Jay spoke up. "I want you to meet someone. A specialist in New York. She works with nerve regeneration cases like mine. You're considering more treatment? I want to explore all options." He set down his chopsticks. "Not because I think I need to be fixed for you. You've made it clear that doesn't matter. But because I want every possibility for our future." "Our future," Asha repeated softly. "Unless you don't see this lasting that long." "I don't know what I see. Everything is still so new." She reached across the table to take his hand. "But I want there to be a future. I want to see where this goes." "That's enough for now." They flew to New York 2 weeks later. The doctor was based in Manhattan, her office state-of-the-art, and her credentials impressive. She examined Jay thoroughly, reviewed all his medical history, ran new tests. Finally, she sat them down in her office. "The good news is you've made remarkable progress. Your current therapist and Miss Thompson's earlier work have helped significantly." She pulled up imaging on her computer. "The nerve damage isn't as extensive as your previous doctors believed. With the right surgical intervention, I'm confident we can restore full function." Jay's hand found Asha's, squeezed tight. "What's the procedure?" The doctor explained in detail. "A complex surgery that would take 6 to 8 hours, followed by months of rehabilitation. Success rate was high, around 80%, but there were always risks." "I need to think about it," Jay said. "Of course. Take your time. But know that the window for this type of intervention is limited. Another year or 2 and the damage might become permanent." They left the office in silence, walking through Manhattan without a real destination. Finally, in Central Park, they found a bench overlooking the lake. "What are you thinking?" Asha asked. "That I want the surgery. That I want to be completely whole." He turned to look at her. "For you. For us. But I'm also terrified it won't work, that I'll go through all of this and still be broken." "You're not broken, Jay. You never were. But I could be better. I want to be better." Asha thought about what this meant. Months of recovery, of being dependent again, of vulnerability. "If you want the surgery, I'll support you. But do it for yourself, not for me." "What if I'm doing it for both of us? Is that allowed?" She smiled. "Yeah, that's allowed." They stayed in New York for 3 more days, playing tourist. Jay was different here, away from Seoul and his responsibilities. More relaxed, quicker to smile. Asha caught glimpses of who he might have been without the weight of his world on his shoulders. On their last night, they had dinner at a rooftop restaurant with views of the city skyline. Jay was quieter than usual, clearly thinking about something. "I could leave it all," he said suddenly. "The business, the territory, all of it. We could stay here, start over. I have enough legitimate investments to support us." Asha set down her wine. "Are you serious?" "I don't know. Maybe." He leaned back. "Being here with you, being anonymous, it's the most peace I've felt in years. Part of me wants to never go back. But it's not that simple. I have responsibilities, people who depend on me. And I'm not sure I know how to be anyone other than who I am." His eyes met hers. "Could you love me if I wasn't powerful? If I was just another businessman in a city full of them?" "I already love you." The words slipped out before Asha could stop them. Jay went completely still. "Say that again." "I love you." Asha felt tears prick her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen this fast, and I definitely didn't plan to tell you like this. But I do. I love you." He was around the table in seconds, pulling her to her feet, kissing her like she was air and he'd been drowning. When he finally pulled back, His eyes were bright. I love you too. God, I love you so much. They barely made it back to their hotel room, hands and mouths desperate for more. When they finally tumbled into bed together, Jay touched her like she was precious, like he was memorizing every curve and sound. And when morning came, wrapped in his arms with the New York skyline glittering outside their window, Asha knew with absolute certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. Because this was real. This was love. And it was worth every risk. Thank you for making it to the end of the story. I hope you loved watching Asha and Jay fall for each other. To support and spread this love, kindly hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Like and share so we can join hands in spreading love and kindness. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. See you in the next one. Bye.